Panthers have been to 3 straight Stanley Cups. They've won 1 of the 2. They have a chance to go 2 of 3. I think the Panthers are in an interesting spot here because they're flirting with a dynasty. I think if you go to 3 in a row and you win 2 of them, I think that is close to what a dynasty really is. For their multiple years at a time. You can't just assume that everybody's going to win 3 in a row. It's dime a dozen. But if they go 2 out of 3, I think that's a dynasty. Now, the flip side of it is if they go 1 of 3, no. 1 of 3, I think you're more forgotten about than you are remembered, which is why I think the Panthers have a lot riding on this. But to the flip side, they're playing an Oilers team that is as motivated as I've ever seen a team and as locked in as I've ever seen a team and probably have the better top-end talent than the Panthers. They're desperate to get this. Desperate. I'm nervous about this series, too, for Florida, because if I had to put money somewhere right now, I think I'm putting it on Edmonton.
I sadly would do the same.
Right.
I was saying this to some people in our office when the Panthers had sealed up their series and the Stars and Oilers were still going at it. Who would the Panthers want to see more? I said the Stars.
Yeah, 100%.
Even though the Stars had the better fiery offense, the Oilers have unbelievable defense. Oh, and then, by the way, they have Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
That's not a combo I want to see as a Panthers fan.
They have the 2 best players on the ice at any given time in Draisaitl and McDavid. And if not better, at just as good as Bobrovsky is Stuart Skinner in goal.
Yes.
So he's either exactly the same as Bobrovsky, but the fact is that they have 2 or maybe 3 of the best players on the ice at any given time. That is dangerous.
Now, to be fair for the Panthers, they're playing their best hockey now. That Hurricane series was literally just a fun festival for them.
Yeah.
Rather than actually like good hockey.
Right.
So they're at their hottest time. But then I would also say the Oilers are playing their hottest game right now, too. We expected Oilers Stars to go deep.
The Stars are better than any team. They're better than Toronto. They're better than Tampa Bay. They're better than any team Florida's seen in the Eastern Conference to this point. And Edmonton, kicked their ass.
Yeah.
So because of that, I would be a little nervous. And the fact that they got so close last year to making some unbelievable comeback, they have a lot more to bulletin board to be angry about.
You saw Connor McDavid in the locker room last year.
McDavid needs the big one because he is an all-time great, and he is trying to have his Gretzky moment in '84. He's trying to have that.
Now, to be fair, Gretzky lost his first one, too.
True. He lost to the Islanders, but then he beat them next year.
Exactly.
So
it's panning out the exact same way.
Right. And that was an Islanders team that won 19 straight playoff series. 19 straight. A record to today in terms of team sports. They won 19 straight, and then they lost to Edmonton and Gretzky. And then Gretzky won 5 in 7 years, or whatever it was. McDavid's trying to have that moment. I'm not saying McDavid's Gretzky, but he's an all-time great. All-time greats need to have moments like this. He's got a lot to gain, and that team has a lot to gain on top of the fact that Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup since 1994. I would be a little nervous. You got Edmonton playing with house money here. They got everything to play for. I'm not saying the Panthers don't, but if there's a 7-game series, it might be this one.
It might be this one. And I'm going to go back to what you initially asked me at the first part of this conversation about the dynasty aspect. I actually have a third idea about this.
Okay.
I don't think 3 years, no matter if you win 3 straight, is worthy of a dynasty.
You don't think a three-peat in teams, let's say you win three in a row.
Yeah.
You don't think why
I
not?
don't think that's long enough to be considered a dynasty.
What is the criteria?
I think you got to be probably north of 5.
5 years of what?
5 years of being one of the best teams in the league, whether it's making a conference championship
you
or making
you
the
can't win
championship.
5 in a row. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But so you're saying being in the mix for a 5-year period and winning a couple.
A couple. Yes.
More than one.
If you're 3, so the Panthers, you could kind of see them coming, but it was really 3 years ago that they kind of just burst onto the scene. What were they, the last ranked team in the conference and then made a championship run?
Right.
That's unbelievable.
When they got Maurice, then the 3 years, then they just kind of exploded.
So if they win or lose this year, and then we don't, let's just say they lose players or something happens and they kind of just lose in the first or second round next year, and then maybe the year after that they kind of pitter off after that, then those 3 years of magic I don't consider to be a dynasty because you didn't do anything after that. Dynasties last. Dynasties are not quick magical runs. Like
quick is a word. For 3 years, quick is a word. Dominating the Eastern Conference. That is a word. No, I don't know. I wouldn't know if I quantify this as quick. This has been 3 years now where they have been the best team in the Eastern Conference in a big spot. Now, also the book
is that considered a dynasty?
Yeah,
though?
but the book is not finished. Let's keep that in mind too.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, I'm not using the word dynasty now. Is my point. Dynasty, let's talk about it in another 3 years.
Right.
Have we been living in a dynasty? Because
if you win 2 out of 3, though, I think it's pretty clear that unless they had some dramatic fall off, it's pretty clear that you're in the middle of it.
Had Brady not won again after his 3rd Super Bowl, would you have considered the Patriots a dynasty?
The thing is, his 3rd Super Bowl was his 3rd in 4 years. Is that not a dynasty?
No, that's my point.
I would argue against that because I think Brady was a part of 2 dynasties. I think he was a part of the dynasty at the beginning of his career, and I think he was the part of the dynasty at the end of his career. Because once they lost in, 2008, they sort of had that reset period, and then they lost again in 2012. And then after that, it wasn't until, that Seahawks Super Bowl?
That they won again.
That they won again. That's when it sort of started again. They had great teams, but they never got it done. It's sort of the forgotten about in-between period of the New England Patriots. And then once they got back to it in New England, then they won like every other year for like a 6-year period.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second dynasty. Yes, the Patriots dynasty is a 25-year period. That is an irreplicable formula. That is never going to happen. That type of dominance is probably never going to happen again. But the way I look at it is I would argue that Brady was a part of 2 dynasties. The one at the beginning of his career and the one at the end. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am throwing the word around a little too loosely. But I think 4 years of dominance in a team sport is very difficult. I think 3 years is also extremely difficult. And this is dominance we're talking about. This is not just being good. This is dominance.
Can I ask you a question then? Why don't we talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning like this?
See, the Blackhawks won 3 in 6 years. That's a dynasty, probably.
Yep.
That's a dynasty.
Fair enough.
The San Francisco Giants from 2010 to 2014, is that a dynasty? 3 in 6 years, every other year. No lost, but World Series. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I would probably say so. Close to it.
It's close.
What did they do in between that?
They lost in the play. They missed the postseason 1 year, and then they made the playoffs the other 2 years and lost before they got to the World Series.
Okay, so to me, it's like I would love to see what those teams were like. Now, I wasn't locked into baseball at that time.
I have to go back and look.
I'm not the best expert for that.
Point is, they won 3 in 6 years. Probably, I would say 3 in 5 years, essentially.
Yeah.
But I would say probably. Maybe we're throwing the term around a little loosely there. But I think hockey is very hard to find repeat champions, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And number 2, consistent players because hockey is good because they got great parity. Teams change around pretty quickly. I think that 3 years of dominance like this, it's magic. It's not seen every day. I'd say it's closer to a dynasty than it isn't. Maybe it's not there yet, but I think this series will determine a lot. If they beat Edmonton twice and they get to, and listen, they got killed against the Golden Knights. What was that, 2 years ago? They got killed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were in the series and they lost at 7. Here's an example. Or the Houston Rockets in the mid-90s. 2 years. They never got back to an NBA Finals.
No,
They never played Jordan. That's probably not a dynasty. You're probably right.
But do you consider, okay, so here's another question. Did Jordan have 2 dynasties? Or is his 8-year run the dynasty?
You can make an argument for both because he literally walked away from basketball. He literally retired. So
if he had been in the league and lost those 2, it
that's
probably would
one
have been the
Bulls
8
dynasty because it's 1 decade. I understand what you're saying. That Patriot one, we're talking about 2004 versus 2017.
Yeah.
That is it was such a prolonged period of time on either side. It's interesting. You'd have to make Because the thing is, not a lot changed about those teams. Those Patriot teams were different. They had a lot of new faces
100%.
other than Belichick and Brady.
Yes.
This is even in coordinators.
Yep.
Everything was different other than Belichick and Brady. The Bulls was the exact same thing other than, they took out Horace Grant. They put in Dennis Rodman. They got rid of John Paxton. They input Steve Kerr. So, there's minor changes, but Scotty was there. Phil Jackson was there. Michael was there. I think that's enough to say that's one dynasty, but there's something to that.
And the reason I would say that the Patriots is one dynasty, not two dynasties, even though their championships were capped off at the ends of Brady's career, they still made 2 Super Bowls in between that time. They were still making AFC championships. What did they win? Their division 14 years in a row?
Yep.
That, to me, is still part of your one dynasty, whether or not you're in championships or not.
True. All right. Yeah, so there's an argument to that.
I would agree with you that we are in a Panthers dynasty, but I need you to ask me the question again in 2 or 3 years.
Fair enough.